UAV Futures, good to see. 5:30 a.m. Don't be awake at 5:30, UAV. I hope there's a good reason you're awake at 5:30 and not like you have insomnia. Okay, man? Good to see you here, man. UAV Futures, me, and XJet. Who else? Who are other old-timers who are still in the hobby? Stu, who was coming up with us? You and I came up together, man. I remember when you passed me in subs, and I was like, oh, that son of a bitch. With your frickin' $100 build, you son of a bitch. No, I mean that with love. Nurkala? Yeah. Paul Nurkala doesn't make a lot of content. He makes some content. I would not say that Paul Nurkala is first and foremost a YouTuber anymore. He's first and foremost a cinema pilot. You know, working with Mark Rober and other big shots. Let's Fly RC. Let's Fly RC is way past. He's new in terms of Project Blue Falcon. Of course, he's no longer around. Who's still around though? I don't know. Not as many. Okay. RIP Project Blue Falcon. Hell yeah. Andy RC still around? Drone Camps has been around. Was he around? When did Drone Camps get big? Was he already big when we came up, Stu? Or did he get big after us? XJet, of course. I already mentioned him. Well, I said Bruce Simpson. Okay. Good to see you, man. Deuce FPV says, I can't link my Vista to my goggles. When I power up the quad, I don't get a solid red light. You didn't say what goggles they are, Deuce. Thank you for a $20 super chat. Deuce FPV. What goggles are they? I can't answer the question without that. FPV Trucker Drone Mesh. He's kind of stopped making content. He was doing a lot of sort of nerdy testing and stuff similar to me. Definitely, you know, he stands out to me. We need to know what video you've got, what goggles you've got, Deuce FPV, the V2 goggles. Okay, Deuce, you need to downgrade the firmware on the Vista to the firmware ending with 0608. Okay? My guess is you have updated the firmware to the latest firmware. That firmware only works with the G2. You need to downgrade the firmware to 0608. Is the number one reason it won't bind.
I'll just mention, he says, I get no solid red light. If you don't have a light on the Vista, that means you don't have power going to the Vista.
Agree.
So you need to check the connector that you've connected to the Vista. You need to make sure the pins are in the right order, and you need to make sure there's not a VTX pit switch on the output power for the DJI.
Or just get a multimeter and carefully check the voltage at the Vista, but do carefully so you don't short the pins. Yeah, good point. There may be no power. Thank you, Bad for Life, also for pointing that out. And of course, Blunty, you too. How do you add an analog module to the DJI V2 goggles? The best way to do it is something like the BDI Digidapter. This is the BDI Digidapter, and in my opinion, it's the best way to add an analog module to the V2 goggles because of how seamless it is. However, you will not be able to have like a patch antenna on the front. So if you use aftermarket antennas, you'll need to find some other way to mount those aftermarket antennas. Oh man, this was a long time ago. I could tell a lot about my videos by my thumbnail, like what year it was made.
What's the best?
Oh my God, kill me. My color grade was so bad. It hurts me. Oh God, it's so bad. Look at all my hair, too. Where's all the gray in my beard? There's almost none. Anyway, when was this? 3 years ago. Oh, my God, I've aged so much in 3 years. I still own that shirt, though, so that's good. Oh, my color grade was so bad. Fabio. Oh, my goodness. Look how bad it was. Jesus. Tata Ron, thank you for 50, not rupees, Those aren't rupees. Those are... Oh, shit. Are they pesos? Chilean pesos? No. Philippine pesos. I was close. They were pesos. Which one's better, Goggles 2 or Integra? Integra is cheaper. Goggles 2 has removable antennas and adjustable focus. Integra has built-in battery. That's basically it. I think for a lot of people, the lower price of the Integra is going to be worth it, and the things you lose aren't going to be that important. Let's see. Tom T, what's your opinion on buying a flight controller with an SPI receiver for a 3-inch? Is it better to buy a separate ELRS receiver or use the SPI? If the flight controller has an SPI receiver, I probably would use it. It would annoy me. But it probably would annoy me less than adding a receiver. Then again, it's not that hard to put an EP2 receiver on a 3-inch. Just stick it down. Don't even have an external antenna. That's a tough one. It depends. I'll tell you what. If the flight controller shipped with Betaflight 4.4 on it, so it already was ready to bind to ExpressLRS 3.x, I probably would just go with it. But if the flight controller shipped with with Betaflight 4.3, then I probably would add the receiver. And you say, well, why not just upgrade the drone to Betaflight 4.4? Because when you buy a bind and fly, the manufacturer has it all PID tuned and set up, and starting from scratch on a new version of Betaflight is kind of a pain in the ass. I probably would just add the receiver. I mean, you could go either way. This one from Soham Thakur. What FPV system is better for a learning pilot? Thank you for 40 rupees. Soham Thakur, I would say analog is the safest bet because it's the least expensive and it has adequate performance to do what you need to do, especially because you're donating in rupees. I'm going to guess that you're in India, and some people in India have told me that it is very difficult and expensive to import FPV stuff and that you don't have a wide selection. Other people in India have ways of getting stuff into the country. Like I've talked to people who have a relative in the United States and they just ship stuff to the relative and the relative sends it over and somehow it gets through customs. Other people say that there's real problems. So obviously I don't know what situation you're in there, but analog is fine. If you decide to go digital, that's a little trickier. Each digital system has certain pros and cons and may have a better availability. They're certainly more expensive, though, and especially if you're shopping in rupees, you're kind of getting screwed by the exchange rate and import duties and all that stuff. And I think probably analog would be the one I would steer you towards.